All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do something kind of different today. And some of you guys have done this before. I'm going to go to a specific spot in Jeremiah, talk really quickly, and then we're going to do a Lectio Divina in Jeremiah. Lectio Divina not only sounds really cool and smart when you say it, but it's actually a good experience. And what it means is divine reading. And so we're going to talk about that when we get to that. But I want to make a couple points in Jeremiah. And the first one, I want you guys to go ahead and turn to Jeremiah 12, verse 5. If you have raced with men on foot, and they have worn you out, or if you're in the ESV, it says if they have wearied you, how can you compete with horses? If you stumble in a safe country, how will you manage in the thickets by the Jordan? So in this moment, before this is happening, Jeremiah is on the verge of quitting. He wants to quit. God has given him this commission to do what? To be what? A prophet. And a prophet goes out and speaks. And Jeremiah has been going out and been speaking, and it's been hard. In fact, he's been constantly rejected. He goes and he speaks hard truth, and the people reject him. Even his fellow priests and pastors and rabbis, they reject him and try to shut him up. There's a story where another priest named Pashur actually locks Jeremiah up in the stocks for the harsh words that he's saying. So Jeremiah is he's being constantly rejected by these people. And it says, and then God, so he's about to quit, and God says this to him, if you have raced with men on foot, and they have worn you out, how can you compete with horses? If you stumble in a safe country, how will you manage in the thickets by the Jordan? This has been such an encouraging verse for me, because there's been several moments in my life, in my walk with God, in my ministry, where I've just felt like, dude, I just want to quit. Let's just hang it up. This is exhausting, it's tiring, it's whatever it is. I don't feel close to God, I don't this, I don't that. I just want to quit. And this has been such an encouraging verse to me, because what does it say? What's it showing? It says that basically God says that I have so much more for you. That this is a training period. This is not anything. In fact, I have for you to run with the horses, to compete with horses. But if you can't even compete with men, how are you going to compete with the horses that I've called you to compete with? That God's encouraging Jeremiah, and as I believe he encourages us to keep going, to not give up, to not quit, to continue to put one foot in front of the other. Eugene Peterson, he wrote, I think I have it here. Yeah, he did. He wrote a whole book based on this concept called Run with the Horses. This is one of my favorite books of all time by Eugene Peterson. And in it, he talks about how some people as they grow up, some men and women as they get older, as they grow up, they become less. Some of us become less. We become smaller. We don't chase after callings of God that God is chase after the giftings that God has put on our lives, chase after the callings that God has put in our lives. We don't seek his face. And some people shrink back into the distance and become less. And some people, as they grow up, become more. Right? They embrace God. They seek after God. And they become more as God continues to reveal himself to each individual. And so that becomes a question: as you're growing up, are you going to become less or more? And the only way to become more is through Christ. It's through his strength. I preached a whole sermon last week, if you were there, on weakness, right? On weakness. So it's not our strength, it's on God's strength. And only on God's strength can we be strong. And so it's this encouragement for us that God has more for us than we often see for ourselves, and that we cannot give up. And when we want to look for courage, when we want to look to an example of courage, when you feel like giving up, when you're in a season of suffering, look to Christ, right? Because Christ is the ultimate example of courage as he goes and he bears the sin of the world before his Father on our behalf, as he bears death on a cross, right? That's courage. He's our example.